Most of you who've had questions about your jury service have already been in contact with Steve. And he's going to talk to you for a few minutes when I get done about the preferred method of contacting him. But please realize you don't have to have a computer to contact Steve. He's available by phone. He makes himself very available to the jurors. He's very sensitive to your problems and your issues. So he will bring whatever your issue is to me, and I will review it and make a decision on it. If you did not receive an excuse and you're upset about it, it has nothing to do with Steve. It's me, okay? I just want to make sure, because, you know, if you want to yell at somebody, you can try to yell at me. It usually doesn't do a lot of good. But I'm an empathetic person, and I realize that there are people who have to work to pay their mortgages and their bills, okay? We excuse people who have work hardship because of a financial difficulty. I know that some of you are taking care of elderly spouses or parents or children who have illnesses, and you have doctor's appointments and you have obligations. We will excuse you, but we need to know what the issue is. You can't just say, need to be excused hardship. You need to give us a reason. Most of you have done that, and I have had stacks of juror forms given to me to make decisions on. If you have a prepaid vacation, you've already spent your money, and your kids say, what do you mean we can't go to Disney World or the cruise or whatever? Let us know what it is, and we will excuse you for those dates if you can demonstrate to us that you have vacation plans. Now, we do ask that you don't get a phone call about a potential jury trial and then and are told to show up and then make your vacation plans. Don't do that, okay? Anything that is ahead, though, or it has already been planned in advance, we're very easy to work with. The other issue that comes up is, let's see, we've covered vacations. I'll think of it. I'm not thinking of it right now. There are other reasons we do excuse jurors. Here's who always gets excused. Night shift. We have any night shift people here? Oh, 3, 4. Okay, 5. All right. I'm not talking to anybody individually now, but if you folks who are night shift would let Steve know, I excuse that because we don't want you falling asleep during a jury trial. Our jury trials sometimes go from 9 o'clock till as late as 5 o'clock at night. So we need you attentive. We also excuse, let's see, over-the-road truck drivers. Do we have any of those? Yes? Okay. You can request. Do you go out of town? Okay. Well, if it's an out-of-town thing, we excuse. I think I had one I just looked at recently who goes all over the country. He's gone for 28 days at a time. That ain't going to work. Okay. So he has to be excused. Okay. Let me give you your oath. If you come into the courthouse across the street for a trial, you will end up getting 2 separate oaths. But today I'm just going to do one of them, and I'm going to go through a series of questions and try to be very quick. I always say that. That's the kiss of death for being very quick, I know. But anyway, I will try to go as quickly as I can because Steve is going to have detailed information to talk to you about as far as how the system works. And no, we don't have a website, unfortunately. I wish we did. We can't do this. We can't notify you by computer. So he'll tell you what to expect. And then Judge Crosby may have some information he wants to impart to you as well. All right, here's the oath. Would you all please raise your right hands? Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm that you will truthfully answer any questions put to you by myself, and if you were in court, by any counsel, in regards to your qualifications to serve as a juror in a particular case? You need to say yes. Okay. Now, the other oath you get is one about, do you solemnly swear that you will follow the law as given to you by the court, which are known as instructions, and that you will return a verdict unless the court rules on it sooner? So you'll hear that one later. There's 2 courtrooms in the Oldham County Courthouse across the street. This is the only time you will be in this building unless you have county business that has nothing to do with court cases. So we have to have you over here because of the great number of you. We're only rated to maybe 95 in the upstairs courtroom across the street. The second floor courtroom is where I hang out, so to speak. That's the circuit courtroom. First floor courtroom is where Judge Wheeler and Judge Crosby have their jury trials. There's a difference between the courtrooms, I mean the judges who do those, who have those cases in those particular courtrooms, because the first floor is district court, and Judge Crosby can tell you more about what they do, but they handle cases that I have no jurisdiction over. They have special jurisdiction over a whole style of cases. Some of them may be, you know, traffic cases. Some may be smaller size. That means it's 5,000 now, right, Jerry? Up to 5,000 on civil cases, and driving under the influence. But they do a lot of other things. So some of you may have been over to that courtroom. If you get called for a trial, you need to check in with the sheriffs, the deputies, who are on the first floor in the hallway. They have a desk there, and they will know who you are, because Steve will give them a list as to who to expect to show up for jury service. It won't be a typical 12-person jury. For one thing, district court doesn't use 12 people. The 12-person jury is a circuit court phenomenon. And if I have a criminal trial and I need 12 jurors, I always pick an extra because my cases go longer. Mine, usually the shortest is 3 days. I've had cases up to 3 weeks. Don't panic. I don't have a 3-week trial on your term, as far as I know this time. But we need about 80 to 90 people to show up, because when you have those types of trials, especially a criminal trial, each side has the right to automatically strike 8 people. So in order to have a qualified set of jurors. So at the end of those strikes, I may only have 25 or 30 jurors left in the pool. A lot of people are eliminated because they know something about the case that is an integral part of the case, not just having read the paper. I'm not talking about that. They know the attorneys. They use the attorneys professionally for some of their work. That's going to disqualify them. They may be related to a witness, related to a party. So, you know, you all are familiar with what you see in the movies and on television about jurors, and we're pretty typical of how that works. Okay, here are the standard questions I need to ask you. They were on your form, but every once in a while something has changed. Is everyone in the room? And raise your hand if you feel like, oh, gosh, I'm not, or that doesn't fit me. Is everyone in the room a citizen of the United States? And raise your hand again if you're not. Is everyone at least 18 years old? We get 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, because the databases that your names are pulled from are sent to Frankfurt, and among the databases are driver's licenses. So we get people who are less than 18. Does everyone in the room speak and understand English? ¿Se puede hablar inglés? All right, I don't know how you would answer the question if you didn't, but we do have a lot of resident aliens, that sort of thing, so we do have to ask. Is everyone, if you are a convicted felon who has no pardon and has not had your jury rights restored, you are not eligible to serve. If that applies to you, please let Steve know and try to give him whatever details you have, and we will check on that and you'll be excused. Similarly, if you're part of the felony diversion program, if you're presently participating in the diversion program, your legal status is in limbo. You have pled guilty to a felony, but you're in this period of supervision, and at the end, if you have no problems, your case will be dismissed. But I'm telling you that if that applies to you and your case has not yet been dismissed, you would not be able to serve. So let Steve know. Again, one more along this line. If you are under indictment, if a grand jury has returned an indictment against you, you cannot serve. All right, has anyone in the room served on a jury within the last, and I don't mean that you actually got picked to sit on the jury, I mean you were in a jury pool, within the last 24 months. It can include Those of you who may have served in another state while living there and have since moved to Kentucky, it can include the federal jury pool. Our federal jury pool for Oldham is down at Western District in Louisville, so you would have gone downtown to serve. And those judges don't let anybody off, I can tell you. So, anybody, does that apply? Okay, you need to turn the information in to Steve after we get finished. It has to be within the last 24 months, okay? This one is the one that sometimes catches people. The Constitution talks about a jury trial by your peers, P-E-E-R-S. And what are peers? Well, it's been determined that peers are residents of the county in which the trial is held. So this is a residence question. You would have seen it already. You must be a resident within the geographical boundaries of Oldham County. We have places in Oldham County that have Henry County postal addresses. For instance, up there in Smithfield, we have the people that the Henry Circuit Clerk tries to get on her jury who show Henry County address of Smithfield actually live in that subdivision up there on 53 that right before it splits off and goes down to Shelby County. And so we're still trying to figure out how to get those people on the jury. But at any rate, we also have a LaGrange address, which is in Henry County. So does anyone live actually in Henry County with a LaGrange mailing address? That place up 146 called Walnut Hill, I think, is the name of it. Okay, you got to be in the county is all I'm saying. Have any of you got plans to move anytime in the next 2 months or so? There's usually people who do. Let Steve know about it. You may be able to serve until the time when it becomes extremely difficult, so please let him know. Okay, and there are people who live on properties, farms usually, that are split and are in 2 different counties. That does not apply to anybody here, does it? So in that case, we have to look at where your house is, and if we have the county line going through the house, which would be a nightmare, I would think, but there's some people down there at the, is it Glen Oaks where this lawsuit's in? You know, the one about the PVA? Oh my goodness, we have a lawsuit with PVA, and it's people who just found out that the lines have moved. I don't know if you've all seen it in the papers, but it's going to be fun. But anyway, if the county line goes through your house, it's where your bedroom is, and where, you know, and then it's where the bed is, and then it's where is your head. I don't know. It gets a little goofy, but that really, believe it or not, in some parts of the state we have that. Okay, so you got a letter that said, be prepared to serve 30 days, and everybody goes crazy. I can't miss work for 30 days. I can't afford it. My boss is going to kill me. I've got trainings I'm supposed to attend or give. It's not 30 days. That's the form from Frankfurt that's intended to scare you all. But it's a form, and it's not 30 days. You want me to speak more loudly? Okay, I'll give it a try. Can you hear me now? Okay, I'm echoing. It's actually 10 days. Most people never get to 10 days. I had 2 or 3 trials last term, highly unusual for me. I've had several terms with no trials or 1 trial. At any rate, I had about 3 to 4 jurors who hit the 10-day mark because they were on 2 or 3 of those trials. I can't excuse you if we're on day 2 of a 3-day trial, obviously, because I'd have to mistry the case. But at the end of it, I will tell you that if you don't wish to serve any further because you've done your 10 days, just contact Steve and we'll excuse you, okay? Most of our jurors, as I say, never get to that. There's probably some of you there'll be a lot of you who are never ever picked to sit on the jury, but who may be called to come into the courtroom and be part of the pool that the judge needs to start with in order to narrow it down and get his jury, okay? I've had people who've been dying to serve on a jury, and they show up faithfully and they never get picked, and I always feel badly for them. I have other people who serve and say, when can I come back? I want to do this again. If you haven't done it, it's a unique experience, believe me. Request to be excused. We prefer those be in writing. If an emergency comes up, we understand you may have to use the phone. Not a problem. Let me ask you all about your paperwork that you got today. How many of you have a yellow paper that you got in your form with some dates on it? Here's a gentleman. Okay, put your hands up. Let's see how many of you. You, my friends, are district court jurors. That means you go to the first floor and you will see either Judge Crosby or Judge Wheeler. And your trials will all be on the first floor. The yellow sheets of paper. They only contain the dates that the clerk has, but there are a certain type of proceeding that comes up suddenly and has to be scheduled within 60 days. And the math would show you, well, my term is 4 months, and so that means there might be more trials. How am I supposed to know about that? So we will let you know. Steve's going to address that. Judge Crosby may say something about that as well. But district court jurors with yellow paper anticipate there will be more trial dates, and you'll get notice of those. Now, how many of you are the purple paper? There we go. So I have to tell you this. I was telling Judge Crosby this the other night. There is a proposed House bill that talks about how to mark your property for private, no trespassing. You all know, you've seen the signs for years. We all know that. And they always say, well, you got to have it posted if you want to enforce it. There's a bill about purple paint, using purple paint to do that. I was astounded. But anyway, that we could have a lot of purple paint around. But purple papers mean you are circuit court jurors. Okay, that means your trial is on the second floor. There's always many more people that are called than for the district court trials because the actual number of jurors sitting, rather than 6 in district court, is 12. There are dates on there. There are not nearly as many dates as the district court people have. We have every date on there that I know about. Okay? My trials, like the district courts, come off and are settled. So I want you to listen carefully when Steve tells you how are you supposed to know whether you in fact have to show up on that jury trial date. And he's going to go through that technical stuff with you. Do listen to him carefully. So my big question is, if you are on the purple paper, consider what I said. My trials are longer, usually 3 days, okay? Let's show me again who has the circuit court paperwork, the little purple. Okay, let me pick on someone here. There's a young lady who's got a white print and a gray shirt. She's smiling, yeah. How are you going to remember when you're supposed to call? Because you have to call before the trial date in order to find out if you either A, have to come in, or B, if it's been settled. How are you going to remember to even worry about that date? What do you do to remind yourself? Okay, you do a calendar thing? Okay, so it dings or something, or it reminds you? All righty, that's a good way. How about, let's see, I can't tell who else had their hands up. Let me see. There's a gentleman in a purple short sleeve shirt with his sunglasses right here. What are you, district? Okay, how are you going to remember? You've got a lot of dates on there. How will you know when you have to show up, or meaning when do I have to call to see if I have to show up? Do you have a paper calendar? How is it like this one? Little one? Okay. So you'll write down all those dates? Okay, all right. What about any other type of method? Do some of you have another method where you keep dates, and any of you have kids in school that have 3 million things going on? Maybe people use phones. Does anybody still put stuff up on the refrigerator? Yay, that's me, yep. I have a big sign up there right now. I think at one time when my children were little, I had 3 different calendar systems going because it was crazy. So we understand. the message is going to be, have some way to remember when you're supposed to contact the phone number that Steve's going to tell you about to know if you have to show up. We don't want you coming to court if the case has been settled and canceled, and you come because you're thinking, oh, the judge said I had to be here. You only have to be there if you first called and heard your number and been told, I need you to show up, okay? We try not to bother you as much as we can, believe it or not. Okay, all right, I have no grand jury, so I don't have to worry about the grand jury. So, Jerry, do you have anything you would like to say before Steve does his? You have to hit a button, I think, down here.
So, you'll hear me repeat this every single time that we have a jury trial on a disability case. There are several months when we don't have any at all, and then sometimes I'll schedule 2, even upwards. I've even scheduled on occasion 3 in an afternoon. Most of those cases are very short, usually take an hour or less. So if you're called on a disability case, your case is going to be over in an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe tops, depending on how long you all deliberate. So they're very short cases. Most of the cases that come through district court, unlike Judge Conrad, who's basically has a minimum of 3 days on her trials, district court cases, if we do have a criminal case that does go to trial, usually just 1 day. I've had in 17 plus years now, I've had 2 two-day trials. That's all. So most of those cases will be 1 day of service, even if we have to go into the evening hours, but we're going to get you out as quickly as we can and get you home. I'll be here for a little while, and if you all have questions you want to ask me, I'll give you an opportunity to ask me some questions later. If you desire, I see some people that I know, some friends that I've known forever, and knowing me or being friends with me or a neighbor of me does not get you off jury service. You're going to have to continue to serve. And I'll tell you all the last little tidbit. I used to tell the story when I would talk to juries that I lived in Oldham County my entire life, just about. My family moved here when I was 5. And up until about 2-3 years ago, I had never been called for jury duty, and I didn't understand why. I've owned several houses here in Oldham County. I've lived here, paid my taxes here. My children go to school here, and I never understood how I never got called. You know, some people I know have been called 2-3 times. In 1 week, I got a jury notice from Oldham County, and then I got the dreaded one from the federal court. And so it's almost impossible for me to serve here in Oldham County because of what we do. There's only 2 district court judges, and for me to serve on the jury panel would be next to impossible for us to be able to continue to do the things that we do. Plus, I know most of what goes on in the county in terms of the criminal offenses that come up, because a lot of those things come through district court. So it's next to impossible for me to serve. But the federal one, you can't get out of. Fortunately, on the form that I got from the federal court, it said, "Are you an elected official?" And I went, yes. And I never got a call back. So I guess they didn't like that I was an elected official. So that's all I got. Once again, I'll stick around for the rest of the time that you all are here. And if you have any questions about your service in district court, I'm happy to talk to you all about that.
We all seem like really nice people. We are nice people, but we have a job to do. So that's why I have to tell you that the green sheet you got is enforced. The green sheet you have looks like this. And I borrowed this from the judge who covered the Carroll, Owen, I don't know, maybe Gallatin County. He used to do it. There's problems with jurors showing up a lot of times. It happens, it's a huge problem in Jefferson County, but their pools only go for 2 weeks at a time because there's so many judges downtown, so many circuits, district courts. It's only us here. And when we need you, we need you. The thing that happens if I don't have enough jurors is I have to mistry a case. Though my trials are scheduled about 6 months in advance. It takes that long to get on my docket, and people put a tremendous amount of resources think attorney time, client stress, and money. They put a tremendous amount of those resources into preparing for a trial. I make every case that comes before me that asks for a trial date, I make them go to mediation first. Mediation is where both sides are ordered to go and try to settle it through a third party who's called a mediator. A lot of the mediators we use are former judges who have been around and have got a lot of experience. Most of the cases mediate successfully, so that cuts down on the number of trials. But the reason I have this green sheet is because I still have jurors who do not appear. Last term was one of the worst. I had to get 5 of them in front of me. And what happens is you get one free one. And we have people who didn't show up today, and this is their free one. After the next one, it means 2 misses, and you will receive a hand-delivered invitation from the sheriff's office to show up in one of my criminal dockets, which will be listed, and you'll be expected and ordered to remain there the entire day, and you can't use your phone unless there's a break, okay? That's a real inconvenience. You should see the faces of people who are told you're staying here the whole day. They do not like it, they're busy, but they didn't call in and we didn't hear from them. If we have people who at least just call in the next day and say, oh man, I forgot, I'm sorry, or I overslept, or whatever, or I had an emergency, we'll usually work with that. Now, if you do that 5 different times, we won't work with it because, you know, after a while we get a little suspicious. But if you miss and it's legitimate, just contact Steve and tell him what has happened so that it doesn't trigger a true, okay, he's got 2 marks, let's send out the sheriff and get him into court. If you miss 3 times, there's another additional sanction, which is a $150 fine. If you miss 4 times, you get to do the first 2 things, plus you have to serve on another 4-month term of jury service with admonition, no more misses, or I have to put you in jail. Now, the people I put in jail should be criminal, right? You all are citizens. You all are jurors. This is a civic duty. So, but I cannot force my attorneys and the parties who have waited 6 months for trial to come back in another 6 months and say, sorry, didn't have enough jurors. And it's happened at least 3 times since I've been on the bench, which is a little bit shorter than Judge Crosby, but it has happened. So please don't let that happen. The other thing is, it isn't fair. Anybody ever heard that? That's the first thing you hear a 5-year-old say. Why do I have to do this and he doesn't have to do this? I'm big on that. So it isn't fair, and I'm going to make you come in if you disregard your jury service obligations. Okay, ready? Go ahead.
Once again, everyone, I'm Steve Kalin. I'm what's called the circuit court clerk here in Oldham County. I'm the guy that you guys have been kind of cursing for the last 2 months because my name's all over the paperwork you got in the mail, right? I'll kind of get into the nuts and bolts of everything, but let me just say my goal, 2 things Judge kind of brought up there. My goal as far as my handling of the jury pool is twofold, right? No mistrials. I've never had one in the time I don't want to curse myself. I've never had a case go to mistrial because I didn't have enough jurors in the time that I've handled the jury pool. And that the green sheet doesn't kick in for anyone, okay? Can't say I've never had that, but I try to minimize that as best I can. The key to those things not happening, it's communication. I mean, if you leave here with one thing today, communicate with me, okay? Judge Crosby talked about all the thousands and thousands of different circumstances you see when you work here. I've worked in the courts and criminal justice system for almost 30 years, okay? And I've dealt with thousands of jurors in the time that I've been running the jury pool here. I've seen a lot of different situations, right? Give me a chance to work with you, okay? Communicate it to me. You'd be surprised what I can work out for you. Said, we don't have to worry about the green sheet. We don't have to worry about mistrials. We get through these things, right? Okay, nuts and bolts of what you guys are looking at. Everybody pull their purple or yellow sheet of paper out for me, please. So you got this purple or yellow sheet of paper, and it's got these list of trial dates on it. right? And so judge talked about how, a lot of trials, both judges talked about a lot of trials, they don't go. What those are prospective trial dates. Those are trials we have currently scheduled on the calendar, okay? Not all of those trials will go, all right? Not all of them will go in circuit, not all of them will go in district. And even the ones that do go, depending on the type of trial, I need different numbers of jurors to appear, okay, for the jury pool, right? So even if a trial does go, I may not need every juror in the pool, especially district court. A lot of those proceedings I might only need 25 people for, and right now I have about 100 of you all. That is because for a criminal challenge district, I might need 60 or 70 of you. So that's why I have so many. But not every juror necessarily has to come in. So how are you going to know if a trial is going and if you are a juror who has to appear? Guys, if you do nothing more than call the evening, and it kind of says down at the bottom if you look down there, if you call that number 222-0725 the evening before the trial date that's on your schedule there, and you listen to that message and you follow the instructions on that message, I'll make sure you guys are squared away. I will give you everything you need, okay? When you call that message, it's going to say one of two things, right? It's going to say, call back on such and such date because right now the status is still unknown, right? So if you call it right now and you hit 2 for circuit court, it's going to say, I need all circuit court jurors to please call back on Sunday, February 4th after 4:30 p.m. for the list of jurors that need a report for the trial that's set for Monday, February 5th at 9 a.m. That's what it'll say, okay? And so if you follow those instructions and you call Sunday, February 4th after 4:30 p.m., there's going to be a message on there that says one of two things. That message is either going to say the trial that was set for Monday, February 5th, it's been canceled. Woo! I need everybody to call back on Sunday, February 18th for the trial that's set for the 19th, okay? Or it's going to say the following jurors need to report for the trial that is set for Monday, February 5th at 9 a.m. I need you to show up at 8:30 a.m. so we can get you signed in. I need you to show up on the second floor of the courthouse over here because that's where circuit trials are held. And then it's going to list the juror ID numbers of the jurors that need to appear, okay? I don't know my juror ID number. It's written kind of on your paper. It's written on your envelope. It's written on your yellow or purple sheet of paper, guys, okay? I highly recommend when you call the jury line, I'd call and not have it with me, right? It's right up there in the corner, right? And the dates are right there in front of me. You may need to make notes at some point, and that'll be there. I'd always call with that, right? Judge also kind of talked about how district court, there will be additional dates added on. It's going to happen, okay? Those are not added on with such short notice that we won't be able to get that message to you through the call-in line, okay? If for some reason, I do mail out additional calendars to district jurors, but I try to limit that because there's a big cost involved in every time I mail it out, right? 100 of you, 50-cent stamp, you can figure it out, right? And so every time we add a trial on, we have 8 trials added on over the period, that's a lot of money, right? So some of those I just get to you through the message, but if we have so many, eventually I'll mail you out a new calendar. I promise you, if you listen to the message, we'll keep you squared away, okay? If you have any questions, make sure you just ask me, all right? Now, so that's the big thing about how I find out, ultimately, if I have to come in for a trial. Now, this is probably the number one thing that almost everyone is sitting here thinking. At least one of these dates on my purple or yellow sheet of paper, I have an issue with. Like Judge talked, I've already told my kids I'm taking them to Disney World. And if I have to sit in court all day, I'm still taking my kid to Disney World, right? If I get in trouble, I just get in trouble. I've got that specialist doctor's appointment that's really difficult. I've waited forever to get in to see the end-all, be-all knee guy, and I can't reschedule that, right? I've got this mandatory work training that can't be rescheduled. They only do it that one time, right? We understand those things. We make accommodations for that. That is why, we have over the number of jurors that we would need for a trial in the pool. Okay, but it does have to be communicated to me, because either some things I can approve, most of them judge has to approve. I have to take them to her, right? So that is something that has to be communicated to me so I can get an answer from the judge. And I can give you an answer. My preferred method, what I find to be most efficient for myself and you guys, if you are an emailer, if you have access to email at all, my email address is on the bottom of the form, okay? Why do I like that? Not only does it provide a document, there's a document right there for me to just hit print, send it to the judge, right? Take it to her, as well as you get a response from me that you have for your records, right? There's no question, there's a trail from all that, right? You send me a request, I'll either say it's approved, or I might say I have to send it to the judge, and I'll correspond back with you as soon as I have an answer. So we have all that back and forth, all right? I totally understand not everybody emails. My dad would he'd be in trouble, right, if he had to email. No worries. Most things I do need a written document for. I have some out front. If you have concerns today you want to write down as opposed to send me an email on it, you can absolutely do it in writing. Mail it to me, whatever that is. Give me a phone call if need be, and we'll figure it out, a way to get that in writing, okay? We will figure all that out, right? Each one of you has my business card. It does have the office phone number as well as that email address listed as well. The office phone number is not going to be answered 24 hours a day. If for some reason you have concerns about, I don't email and I'm afraid I would need to get hold of you at 8 o'clock at night or whatever, no worries. I'll give you my cell phone. I have no problems with that, and you can write it on there, okay? All right? So just get that information to me if you have a conflict. Judge talked about how circuit court trials are multiple days, district court trials 1 day in duration, okay? So what does that mean if the date on here says February 5th, but I'm flying out to Disney World or I have that doctor's appointment on February 7th? What I would ask that you do, if you have on a circuit court, if you're a circuit court juror, if you have a conflict the week of, that calendar week of that trial date, please get that to me, okay? Then judge and I will make a determination based upon, we have an idea of how long these trials are anticipated to go. Judge will make a determination about whether, we'll be done by Friday, and so the fact that you're leaving on Friday is no problem, and I'll communicate that back to you. But get me that information. What I would really ask that you not do is, here's the trap jurors kind of fall into, unfortunately. Like I said, a lot of these trials do get canceled. So what do? They assume that I've called 3 times, and 3 times I've answered, and it says trial's canceled, right? And so they start not calling, or they call and they're like, uh-oh, the trial's going, and I have to come in, and I didn't tell my boss that I may have jury duty tomorrow. And then I get that panicked email at 11 o'clock at night that says, Steve, I have to work tomorrow. And unfortunately, I have to say, I can't, you've been drawn into a jury pool. I can't make the determination to excuse you. Only the judge can do that. Now, that is still better than not contacting me at all, but please avoid that situation. Please communicate to me, okay? That is super important, all right? I am a habitual email checker, right? So send me that email at night. We do understand kids get sick, people get sick. Communicate those things to me, please. So hopefully that kind of covers some of those things. How do I let my employer know that I appeared, and how do I get paid from the state the giant $12.50 per appearance you will all make? Please understand, no one in Oldham County makes that decision. Certainly not any of us up here. You are worth, way, 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 way more than that to us, okay? But that is the rate, okay? In each one of your packets today, except for one that I think fell out, you have a little blue piece of paper that has your name, today's date, and says that you appeared today, okay? That is your work excuse. Every time you come into the courthouse to appear for jury duty, you will receive one of those showing you were here, right? In addition to that, it talks about amounting a total of one day for the $12.50. Those aren't vouchers that you have to turn in to get paid or anything else. I'll keep track of your attendance, right? I'll reflect your attendance in a computer system today, and at the end of the jury pool, at the end of the term, when we are all done, you will receive in the mail a check totaling all the days you've served, okay? All right? So I will go ahead and ask this. Natalie, as well as helping with the jury service, this is Natalie Shannon, by the way. She's also the bookkeeper in the office. Even if you only have 1 day's pay on there, because this is the only time you came in for today, please cash it. Because inevitably, A, you've earned that and a whole lot more. And B, inevitably, if you don't, and we have 50 checks out there that haven't been cashed, even though they're only for $12.50, it's a bookkeeping bit of a nightmare, right? I don't know if any of y'all are in bookkeeping, but it's a bit of a pain, right? We have to reflect all those things. So please try to cash those checks, okay? I think, like I said, I think that kind of covers everything, that the nuts and bolts of what we're looking at. Once again, I promise you, if you communicate with me, I'm confident I can get you through it like we talked this morning. Really, the key is really kind of shared sacrifice. If everybody kind of pulls this wagon uphill as much as they sincerely kind of can without real sincere undue hardship, it ends up being, not a significant, it won't ruin anyone's lives. I promise, okay? All right, thank you.
All right, two more things, and I apologize for this. First, if you want to know how long you have to be officially on jury duty, the next jury is coming in on May the 18th. I don't anticipate you all will be in any of my trials that day. It's a Friday. So that's when we change over to the next jury. Second thing, I take the responsibility for this. I have a trial listed on here of February 19th. I just talked to those attorneys by conference on Wednesday. They have changed the date, and it's still within your term. So if you have a purple sheet, would you please remember to mark out February 19th and add this date. It's March the 26th, 9 a.m. Nearly all my trials are Mondays, so it's March 26th at 9 a.m. The issue was they told me it would be 1 day. I got their pretrial compliance. One of the parties listed 22 witnesses. So when we called, I said, what do you mean 1 day? And I'm scheduled to leave town that Wednesday, and then there's no way I can do a 3-day trial because I told them I've had my reservations for 13 months, and we're going to change the date because I'm not missing this trip. Okay, so March 26th, please write that down. That's all I have, and I have a hearing at 10, so I'm going to have to run.
And
okay.
If you're okay, I'll stick around and answer any questions they have.
Yeah. Steve will be here to talk to you if you
and
need
we could
him.
do them as a group. We'll answer, I'm sure there are enough questions that we'll do them as a group that'll be helpful. And then if you have something you don't want to ask in front of everybody or you want to talk to me personally, I'll hang around as long as we need to do. Anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am. Is there an automatic age exemption from jury duty? No, there is not in the state of Kentucky. So, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Obviously, so often they talk about a jury of your peers. It is conceivable we could have defendants who are over, or parties, plaintiffs, who are over 70 years of age, right? And so there is no automatic age exclusion. However, if medical issues are certainly, if it's a medical hardship, certainly that is something the judge considers. But we have folks of all ages, 18 above, who serve for us. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. If you're good, if you're squared away, you guys can head out if you got somewhere to be. I'll give everybody a second to head out who doesn't have any questions, and then we'll go from there.